kernel module and IP tables. The scenario is complex but not difficult. The best way to keep track of the attack is by using a visual reference. So let's quickly take a look at our scenario before we begin. In this first diagram, we can see a simplified victim network layout. As always, keep in mind that the IP addresses presented in these diagrams will not necessarily represent your lab environment. You'll have to adjust these IP addresses according to your lab setup. So this is the external victim Cisco machine which we'll be attacking, with the IP address 192.168.99.191. Now obviously this IP address is not really external. However, we will be treating the lab VPN cloud as the internet in this exercise. Therefore, we can consider both our backtrack VPN address, this is my lab VPN address as I was connecting to the labs, and the IP address of our Cisco router as routable real IP addresses. Once we've understood the scenario, let's quickly connect to the victim router machine to inspect its configuration. Obviously, as attackers, we wouldn't have this privilege. However, this is the most convenient way to observe configuration changes in the router as the attack progresses. So let's quickly do that. I will telnet to my lab Cisco machine. And log in with the password offsec. Let's quickly look at the router configuration file. So I'll go into enabled mode, and once again the password is offsec. And we'll give the command show running config. So the first interface, which is the external interface. This is the one with our allegedly external IP address, is providing NAT to an internal interface, which is probably our internal network. And if we look closely, we'll see that SNMP is enabled on this router. However, there's an interesting access list here, which permits access to the private SNMP community string only to addresses from this source network. So essentially, if we look back at our diagram, what we can see is that this router is providing NAT services for clients in this network, and that additionally, this router has SNMP public and private community strings enabled. The public community string is available to anyone, while the private community string is restricted to computers from this network only. Make sure you see and verify these configurations in the router config. Let's move on to the victim client. And in a separate session, I'll connect by a special RDP tunnel to our victim client, which is located inside the internal network. Essentially, we'll be connecting to this machine in order to observe the effects of the attack as we proceed. So I'll quickly do that. And log in with the password lab. And essentially what I'm doing now is creating a fancy SSH tunnel to our victim machine, which will now be available through our local host. And we can log in with the username offsec and the password lab. So I'll put this window in a separate desktop. And what we see now, once again, is our victim before the attack has started. I'd like to quickly give the traceroute command from the victim before the attack to a nearby server. Let's try that out. Alright, so this nearby server is a few hops away, and this is the path, this is the routing path that was taken in order to reach this server. So this is a nice before snapshot, as we'll be comparing this output once the attack is complete. So let's minimize this window as well and proceed with our